You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's July the 10th, and happy 7/10 to everybody. Welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Today with Glenn Prentice and myself, Al Graham. We're here and we're live at the Legacy420.com news desk and live at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Good morning, Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Al. How are you?
Doing all right. A little cool here this morning. I got the sweater on.
But you're outside at least.
But I'm outside, exactly, which is nice. It's nice. Nice to be outside. Exactly.
I'm semi outside.
You send me outside. I can't do this in the winter. So it's nice to be able to at least do it in the summertime when possible. No doubt.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that you're wearing the big bulky shirt when a couple days ago that you couldn't get enough off.
Yes. Yeah. Well, a little, when I first got up and took dogs for a walk, it was a little cool. So, and myself, I wear friggin' long johns until it's 20 degrees out. Okay. So,
so you're saying it could be in the mid 60s and 70s right now.
It's the humidity. The warmth doesn't bother me. It's just the humidity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Glenn, we got some interesting stories today. What do you say we get at them?
Sounds great to me.
All right. First story up is unpaid cannabis regulatory fees continue to climb in Canada. And this comes to us from MJ Biz Daily.
Unpaid regulatory fees owed by cannabis companies in Canada's federal government jumped to more than 200% from a year earlier to almost 4 million Canadian dollars. As of the end of the month, MJ Biz Daily has learned. The overdue fees have grown every year since 2019 as cannabis businesses licensed by the federal government struggle under the weight of taxes, fees, and intensely competitive market and poor business decisions.
For the 22-23 fiscal year, the fees in arrears grew to $3.9 million, or 225% more than the previous fiscal year. That was 1.2 million, according to the new figures shared with by Health Canada. You can see there. Look at the chart, Glenn.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Nothing down here, and then a little bit, then bing, bing, bong.
Yeah.
The outstanding funds are only for the annual regulatory fee applied to licensees. The proceeds from annual regulatory fees are used by the government to cover the costs associated with regulating the cannabis industry, such as paying hundreds of federal employees.
The annual regulatory fee generally amounts to 2.3% of a company's gross revenue. Canada's cannabis excise tax, which is also applied to gross revenue, is separate from the annual fee. Industry executives have criticized the government for what they say are excessive fees and taxes, no doubt.
No doubt. In fiscal 21-22, for example, various levels of government collected more than $1.5 billion from the cannabis industry via excise taxes, other taxes, such as sales taxes, and various fees. Industry-wide wholesale sales, the main source of revenue for most licensed cultivators, was only $3.1 billion that year.
Wow. In addition, government-owned cannabis wholesalers, such as the Ontario Cannabis Store, which collectively represent the most profitable firms in Canada's cannabis industry. Of course, the government's the most profitable firm always. Have applied markups up to 45% on private cannabis companies that buy their products for retail sale. The OCS is lowering its markup on edibles from 45% to 25%. We've got a 45% markup.
Yeah, that and all they are is the middleman.
Yeah, and they're also the regulators.
They just collect it all, and then they distribute it to all the 1,700 or whatever 1,500 stores we have in the province.
As far as I'm concerned, it should be illegal because they
It's ridiculous.
regulate that market, and they're
Yeah.
also the most profitable part of that market.
They are the most profitable one here in the province. There's no
Wow. Everybody's
exactly.
going bankrupt, but they're doing well.
Yeah, they're doing very well. There's no doubt. Well, you can market things up by 45%.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. They say those kinds of fees or those kinds of margins, when considered with taxes and fees, which are on top of that, leave
Yeah.
little for private business industry executives say. We've seen in Smith Falls, Ontario, and Olds, Alberta, the consequences of administration of fees and taxes, which makes our industry largely unsustainable, according to George Smitherman, who's the CEO of the industry group Cannabis Council of Canada, and he said that in Ottawa earlier this year.
Didn't he? Wasn't he part of the government, George
He
Smith?
was at one time, but not during cannabis legalization in the end.
Okay. Smitherman was referring to 800 employees in Smith Falls who were let go by Canopy Growth, which is a badly managed company too, not just regarding this money, as well as 85 jobs in Olds cut by Calgary, Alberta, based producer and retailer SNDL. Everywhere you look, someone's put up a fee or a regulatory barrier or burden that in the collective sense is making it impossible for our sector to make the progress that was expected and sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, the growing amount of unpaid government fees accumulated by licensed producers is no surprise to Mitchell Osk, president of the Toronto-based Quanta Consulting. He says fundamentally, LPs are overtaxed and overcharged with fees in a very hostile operating environment. The
Yeah.
financial roster may finally be coming home to roost for many of them.
OSAC suspect many companies are likely months, if not weeks, from failing. The LPs don't have the money to pay the government on time. When more mission-critical business needs like payroll are staring them in the face, he said. Realistically, many of these fees won't ever get paid to the government because the companies will go out of business. OSAC said another factor might be fueling the growth amount of unpaid fees.
Yeah, he continues to say that cost-cutting measures have led to the pruning of back office staff as well as turnover. This has created a situation where fewer or less trained people have to do the same amount of financial management work. Payment delays in some companies simply comes down to accounts payable processing or approval delays.
OSAC said some licensed producers might be refusing to pay out of a sense of grievance and anger with the government. Health Canada says it charges 4 cannabis-related fees to cannabis business license applicants and licensees to recover program costs.
Those 4 fees amounted to $75.7 million in revenue in 21-22. The annual fee accounted for the vast majority of all cannabis fees collected. And in the 2021 fiscal year, the annual fees amounted to $71 million or 95% of Health Canada's cannabis business fees.
3 of these fees are what Health Canada calls transactional activities, meaning for one-time events, including application screening, security clearances, and import and export permits.
Those fees cover a single application or permit and are non-refundable. Health Canada told MJ Biz Daily it began work on application screening, security clearances, import or export permits only after an invoice is paid in full.
As a result, these fees have arrears because they must be paid ahead of time. These fees are charged to recover the cost incurred by Health Canada and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to perform the service being requested, a spokesperson for the Health Department told MJ Biz Daily. What the hell does the Canada Mounted Police have to do with cannabis?
That would
Right
be
now.
the security check.
Wow. Do they have to? Are they involved with the beer that we're shipping over to the States and to everywhere else?
No.
I didn't know the Mounted Police had a clear beer.
There's security check. Becoming a licensed producer in the store. Yeah. It's been like that, since the day one. Even with patients, we've had to check off a box whether we've had any fines or any convictions in the last 10 years and stuff like that in the very beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Insane.
Exactly. Now they say the insolvency filings of increasing number of cannabis companies provide clues as to how much money Canada's federal government is missing out in a way of taxes and fees. In April, cannabis producer Fiona Group was granted creditor protection.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. The company's list of unpaid creditors shows that it owes the Canadian government more than $2 million in unpaid fees and taxes.
Wow. In fact, the Canadian government was the company's third largest unpaid creditor, indicating the fees and taxes contribute a notable amount to cannabis businesses' cost. At the time of its insolvency, Fiona had amassed a total debt with the Receiver General of Canada and the Canada Revenue Agency of $911,893 and $780,506 respectively. That's two different agencies.
Oh yeah. Well, there's Trichome Financial Corp also owed the Canadian government millions of dollars in unpaid fees when it obtained creditor protection. So yeah, there you go. Lots of money owed, not being paid.
They're saying this is just to cover their costs, and it's
Yeah,
bankrupting the producers and everybody else in the business.
it's an awful expensive cost to
Yeah,
get stuff started.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't help you there. Just so you know, I got a message from a Facebook user looking for some mushrooms, but I can't help you there. There's lots of stores opening up, from my understanding, across the province. So hopefully they can find them there.
Most of the reserves, in my experience, would have them.
Oh yeah.
At least like Golden Teachers or something mild ones like that.
Yeah. That's all you can do. Just check them out. Take a look. All right. On to our next story. And I got to find it in the list. There we go. And this one is right here in Ontario. And it is about time they talked about that. And they said that pot shop owners back rule changes on window covering and incentives. And this comes to us from the from the London Free Press.
Ontario's cannabis regulator is mulling whether to allow pot shops to showcase products in their windows and offer incentive programs to customers. The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario is collecting feedback up until next week from cannabis industry stakeholders in two proposed amendments to the rule book governing retail stores.
The first rule being reviewed is the retailers can't have any products or accessories visible to passerbys. Store operators have long complained that requiring window covering poses a safety and security risk to both employees and customers.
There's been a lot of robberies, not in London, but other places, said Marga Vertoli, who's the owner of Lux Smoke on Warncliffe Road. You have no idea who's coming into the store. Alberta lifted its requirements on window coverings following a string of robberies, some of them violent, at cannabis shops.
Marie Ross, the owner of two Bob's Bud Emporium stores in St. Thomas, echoed the safety concerns. What other industry works in an environment where they can't see somebody coming into the store? I can answer that question. I can. Adult sex shops. Their windows are also covered.
I didn't even know they existed anymore. I'm ignorant to that fact. I live in a little small town. We don't have any of those.
Yeah. Peterborough's got them. Belleville's got them.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Toys and things. Well, actually, even to tell you the truth, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop has them as well.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
And I learned something new today.
There you go. No, at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, they keep them in the back section. They have a door. And it's an adult only section, so it's not affected so much by the window coverings. But yeah, the others for sure.
Wow. What are they? Oh, sorry. The window coverings, in addition to costing money, also prevent members of the public or the police from seeing whether a crime is being committed inside a store. It's
Bingo.
like, cover the bank windows up and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Ross has submitted the survey on the proposed changes to the AGCO. She said there's a double standard that allows liquor stores and bars to showcase their products, but bans cannabis outlets from doing the same. Yes, exactly.
I know in Campbellford years ago, there was something to do about asking the businesses to leave a light on in the stores. So when the police, when they're driving around at nighttime, they can see into the stores.
Makes sense to me. Makes perfect sense.
Yep. The second rule under review is the ban of retailers giving out free cannabis products or providing incentives to purchase cannabis products and accessories. Some retailers already are skirting this rule by offering loyalty programs that allow customers to get a discount after making a certain number of purchases at a store.
I have experience with that. In Ontario, government store, went in there and they offered me a loyalty card.
Yeah.
And you get 15% off your every purchase after the first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I bought one joint
them.
and then I bought an ounce right after. So I got 15% off the ounce, which works out to be the tax.
Right. Yeah. The proposed changes will keep industry employees and consumers shopping in retail stores safe and focus our regulatory resources on the areas where they make the most difference, the regulator says.
The proposed amendments come amid ongoing turmoil in the cannabis industry. Licensed cannabis producers and retail stores are struggling to compete with an illicit market that controls roughly 40% of sales in Ontario. Earlier this year, the Ontario Cannabis Store, the province's cannabis wholesaler, said it would lower its profits margins, a move expected to put $35 million back into the hands of cannabis companies this year to help battle the black market.
But Canada's biggest cannabis companies still are struggling to turn a profit, and the cannabis shop owners have complained the retail market is oversaturated. Under the ACCO system, an unlimited number of cannabis shops can open with no restrictions on their location, except requiring the business to be at least 150 meters away from schools. More than 50 licensed cannabis stores are operating in London, with at least a dozen more in the process of opening, plus a pair of unsanctioned Indigenous-run dispensaries that opened the doors earlier this year. On your land, buddy.
They're Indigenous. They don't have to be sanctioned. I don't like the way
That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Like the Indigenous stores that are opening in the urban areas, the urban area is on their land, so they can open their stores. Yeah.
Yep. As the rules governing the cannabis industry begin to loosen, Ross said she'd like to see Ontario scrap its prohibition on parents bringing their children into cannabis shops. Yes, so would I. It would help reduce the stigma, she said, noting youngsters are allowed in stores selling booze. Yeah, and many times I've had my kid in me or with me when I went to the beer store when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, they say here that children are accompanied by adults are allowed inside both the LCBO outlets and beer store locations as long as they don't touch the products. Well, why can't they not do that in the cannabis stores?
Yeah. You're allowed to go into a bar as long as they're serving food.
Well, look at it this way. Not only can they serve you your bottle of alcohol at the LCBO, but they can serve your glass of wine, pour it into your glass while you're sitting at a table with your 4 kids.
Yeah.
And they're worried about a kid coming into a cannabis store.
Well,
continue.
It's reefer madness still.
It is. Yes. Okay. I see that story's done. I'm done ranting too. So I'll get that off the screen. All right. Yeah. It's that part is ridiculous, and I'll be so happy if they get rid of that window coverings.
Yeah, that is a safety concern, no doubt, and it's also a stigma thing too. You know, it's like you're going into some illicit place, right? Even though it's not.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, just so you know, our messages are getting through. They're going to stop in on the reserve.
Nice. Okay, great.
Yeah, they've got some feedback, and they say that True North always offers a discount for seniors.
Perfect.
So I'll have to find out about the senior end of things.
Is senior 60 or is it 55?
Well, that depends on the business, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you can go into Guardian Drugs and get a senior discount at 55.
Yeah.
Right.
I went out to a buffet when I was 50 at a casino because I was senior when I was 50.
And our Facebook user is making a comment in regards to that touching end of things, and they say, tell me one place where you're allowed to go in and touch cannabis of any kind before you buy it.
You're not.
You can't.
No.
Exactly.
I like the reserves. At least I get to smell it.
There you go. Well, I know down at Legacy they have the glass things that it has the magnifying glass and the vented holes in it.
Nice.
So there you go. All right, on to the next story. This one comes from Guncheonier, and that says Pennsylvania Committee advances expansion to state medical cannabis program.
The Pennsylvania Senate Law and Justice Committee has approved a measure that would allow physicians to certify patients for the state's medical cannabis program for any condition they deem suitable. Perfect. Good. Pennsylvania reports the measure will next move to the full Senate for consideration. The bill would effectively eliminate the state's list of 24 qualifying conditions and leave the decision to doctors and their patients. The legislation would also end the expiration date for medical cannabis cards.
I like that part. When I read the story and I read that part, I thought, well, someone's cancer doesn't all of a sudden just disappear, or their Crohn's just doesn't disappear, or their arthritis just doesn't disappear. But, they come at it as, well, it's a prescription. You got to go see your doctor to get your prescription once a year. So that's what they say.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we? Go ahead.
The committee chairman, Mike Regan, who's a Republican, who sponsored the bill to end the expiration date for medical cannabis ID cards, said the ultimate goal is to reduce restrictions on medical cannabis organizations and to reduce the cost and burden on patients. And I'd really like to note this is a Republican saying this.
Yeah. Nowhere do we dictate to doctors what conditions a patient must have for them to prescribe medication.
Yep.
Yeah. The committee also approved a measure to allow cannabis edibles to be sold in the state's medical cannabis dispensaries, and another that would provide independent grower processors of medical cannabis with additional dispensary permits.
The bills would end the qualifying conditions list and ID card expiration dates and allow edibles past the committee 10-1. The measure to add additional permits passed unanimously. Nice.
There you go. Nice.
There are changes happening.
Yeah. Just taking just take some time, and then you run into a story like this, okay, and you wonder, like, really, what's going on here? And that is because this headline, it says Meta-owned social media app Threads direct users to drug treatment help when searching marijuana or psychedelics, but not alcohol or cigarettes. Really? So if you're you're looking up cannabis, medicinal cannabis, they're going to tell you to go get some drug treatment help on this new app, Threads.
That's crazy. Threads, the new Meta-owned social media app that launched on Wednesday, is asking people if they want to get help finding drug treatment resources from a federal agency if they search for posts about marijuana or psychedelics like psilocybin or ibogaine. But searchers for content about other drugs that are linked to serious addiction and death, like alcohol and tobacco, come with no such warning. As tens of millions of users flock to the Twitter alternative, which is tied to Meta's existing Instagram app, drug content flag laws, a flag seems somewhat inconsistent when it comes to which substances it identifies as potentially problematic. Search marijuana, select psychedelics or the opioid fentanyl, and this is what you get.
This may be associated with the sale of drugs. The sale, purchase, or trade of illicit drugs can cause harm to yourself and others, and is illegal in most countries. If you or someone you know struggle with substance abuse, you can get help through confidential treatment referrals, prevention, and recovery support.
It then gives users the option to get help via the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or see results anyway.
There's a picture of it right there.
A big black box, and it looks serious. And then there's a box where you can tap that says "Get help."
Get help.
Yeah.
Other drug terms that elicit the warning include MDMA, peyote, Vicodin, Percocets, Andorol, Xanax, meth, heroin, and DMT.
Wow. By searching for things like beer, cigarettes, and liquor, present app users with no such prompt about drug treatment resources. Interestingly, the app doesn't seem to have a filter that offers treatment resources when people search cannabis or the psychedelic ayahuasca. It's not clear why they're treated differently on the app, though cannabis can also refer to federally legal hemp, which may explain the distinction in that case. I've never referred to hemp as cannabis.
Yeah. Now they say that the marijuana moment, where this comes from, reached out to Meta for clarification, but a representative was not immediately available. For people who followed coverage of the overlap between cannabis and social media, this Threads development may sound familiar. Twitter took a similar step in 2020, cautioning users about marijuana searches as part of a partnership with SAMHSA. Alcohol and tobacco were summarily excluded from the search restrictions.
But late last year, after being acquired by Elon Musk, Twitter suspended that practice and has since updated a cannabis advertising policy, aiming to give cannabis businesses that are certified advertisers the ability to feature packaged cannabis products in the ad creative that's promoted on the social media site. The company generated headlines when it previously revised its marijuana policy in February, opening up advertising opportunities for cannabis companies to promote their brands and campaigns while allowing them to link back to their websites in the select legal states.
Threads, meanwhile, is being touted as a superior alternative to Twitter as that app continues to encounter glitches and major policy upheavals, such as temporary limitations on the number of posts you can see, but evidently is taking a page from its competitor's history. Clicking the Get Help option on Threads also sends a SAMHSA helpline page, but it's unclear if there's a formal partnership between the app and the federal agency.
For many, the restriction represents a stigmatizing double standard, with the cannabis plant being associated with addiction, while alcohol, vodka, and whiskey are unaffected by the policy.
Yeah.
I would say they're way more addicting than cannabis is.
Oh, but while users are able to get search results anyways, if they take the extra step, the limitation also poses problems for companies, including media organizations, whose coverage of issues like cannabis and psychedelics reform, or even the opioid crisis and harm reduction efforts, are automatically hidden unless the user circumvents the filter.
Wow. Whether Threads follows Twitter and ultimately removes the feature is yet to be seen. In any case, Marijuana Moment is active on the app to try and get news across to new readers on the platform.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap that one up. That's just, crazy. But, what do you do? What do you do? It's their platform, right?
It's 2023.
I know.
And it's like it's 1980 there.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense. Like I can understand where they're trying to reach people where there's people that need to be helped. But there's a lot of people I'm sure out there that are alcoholics that would probably like some help, and maybe get that opportunity to click on that Get Help button.
Yeah, I don't understand the double standard. If you're going to put it up there, I have nothing against it, but it definitely should be up there for alcohol and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, on to our last story before we go to break. Cannabis workers in California, Missouri vote to join Teamsters.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters grew its membership of cannabis workers again, this time in California and Missouri. Teamsters Local 1932 in San Bernardino, California, added 81 workers at Grow Packer, a desert hot springs-based cannabis bottling facility, according to a news release.
Employees at another San Bernardino cannabis company, Captain Jack's Dispensary, voted in February to join Local 1932. In 2021, cultivation factory workers in nearby Tucumcari also voted to join 1932. This is the fifth group of California cannabis workers who have joined the Teamsters this year, and there are many more on the rise, according to Peter Finn, Teamsters Western Region Vice President and Food Processing Division Director, says in a statement.
Meanwhile, patient care advocates and supervisors Valley Park, Missouri-based Block Dispensary, a subsidiary of Justice Cannabis Company, voted to join Teamsters Local 618. It marks the first time the Teamsters have unionized cannabis workers in Missouri, according to the release.
This is the first of many cultivation, distribution, and retail operations that we're going to organize throughout Missouri, Finn says in a statement. The other big union in the cannabis space, the United Food and Commercial Workers, started recruiting Missouri cannabis workers back in 2022.
It's funny that it's the Teamsters.
Well,
the truck drivers.
The United Food Workers and Paper Workers was the union at the company that I worked at before I got sick. They're no longer there. They got removed. They're no longer there. But yeah, it didn't have anything to do with hydro, electricity, or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, it's time for us to go on a break. Medication time. Glenn and I'll be right back after a joint session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
Is 420 camping your thing? Do you like cannabis cups? Want to learn more about cannabis? Enjoy music festivals? Living on the East Coast or looking for a really good reason to visit? Then Harvest Fest is calling your name.
Join us the weekend of July 14th to 16th at Fox Mountain Camping Park in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, to meet like-minded people, have your cannabis questions answered, listen to great bands, and have a blast.
Service lots available and camping is included in festival admission. $60 for the weekend, or $30 for Friday, and $40 for Saturday. Food trucks, hot showers, flush toilets, and accessible washrooms. Rolling contest sponsored by Canadian Lumber Limited, with chances to win a case of rolling papers and more throughout the weekend.
For info about attending or vending, email chair@mumm.ca. Hope to see you there.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Back from a medication session, you're live with Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, and to tell you the truth, I'm still having my medication session. All right, Glenn, did you see that promo there on the Mom Harvest Fest? You're down there, that neck of the woods.
Yes, I'm very interested. I'm not sure if I'll be attending or not, but I'm definitely going to try.
All right, sounds good.
And if I do, I'll get some video of it.
Hey, there you go. Hey, if you're going to go, let us know ahead of time. Maybe we'll be able to do a broadcast from there.
Oh, okay.
All
okay,
right.
Will do.
Well, if you're going to go, let me know, and we'll discuss it and go from there. After we'll discuss it off here. So
sounds good.
All right. Next story that's up. Headline says, can microdoses of psychedelics effectively treat neuro-Lyme? This comes to us from LymeDisease.org.
Those of us dealing with Lyme disease are well aware that most symptoms reside in the musculoskeletal and nervous system. And for many of us, the worst symptoms in the nervous system are neuropsychiatric. I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry. The severity of anxiety, panic attacks, depression, irritability, and rage can be overwhelming. Chronic tick-borne infections can also cause bipolar disease, addiction syndromes, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, and psychosis. And of course, it is all compounded by impaired sleep, brain fog, fatigue, and chronic pain, not to mention physician ignorance.
Turns out that these mental health symptoms are primarily caused by inflation from infection outside the nervous system. For example, kids with PANS, which is pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, have infections in which antibodies to different microbes cross the blood-brain barrier and attack the brain. That's not good, resulting in severe mood and behavior disturbances. A similar process occurs in adults with neuropsychotic Lyme disease. There is an increasing recognition that many mood disorders are linked to infections and autoimmune disorders, and the common link is neuroinflammation, brain on fire.
Wow, that's not what you want.
No.
It's no surprise that people with neuropsychiatric Lyme disease have elevated levels of inflammatory mediators, including anti-neuronal antibodies, chemokines, inflammatory lymphoproteins. Think of neuropsychiatric Lyme disease as autoimmune inflammation of the brain. The primary legs of treatment are antimicrobials, psychotropic medications, anti-inflammatory agents. Ideally, an anti-inflammatory agent will decrease inflammation but not suppress immune function. March 2023, I published a report describing a patient with long-standing Lyme disease, Babesia and Bartonella infections, in which the primary symptoms are neuropsychiatric. He experienced anxiety with panic attacks, depression with suicide ideation, and sleeplessness. Wow.
These symptoms gradually came under control with appropriate treatment, but a change in his regime resulted in severe relapse. He could no longer tolerate even low-dose antimicrobials without hexamer reactions. Zoloft was not helping, and he could not tolerate Ativan for anxiety. In fact, any benzodiazepine, I'm just going to call benzo, increased his suicidality. Yes. That is when his daughter suggested to try microdosing.
After a 40-year prohibition in the U.S. of lysogenic and acid diethylamide, which is LSD, and psilocybin, there has been a renewed interest in their potential for therapeutic benefit. The preponderance of research in the past 2 decades has been in controlled clinical settings in which subjects are administered a single high dose of hallucinogen while under the supervision of a therapist or a guide, or both. In 2018, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration categorized psilocybin as a breakthrough therapy in the treatment of depression, a designation the agency applies to drugs that in early trials demonstrate substantial improvement over existing treatments. There is a compelling evidence that psilocybin has potential value in the treatment of some mental health conditions. Multiple studies have documented its effectiveness in patients with depression, anxiety syndromes, end-of-life anxiety, and suggested benefit in OCD, additional disorders. PTSD is one of the main things that it works for.
Yeah, addiction disorders, like you say. Microdosing is the practice of consuming very low sub-hallucinogenic doses of a psychedelic substance on a regular basis. The intention of microdosing is to offer similar benefits to full dose psychedelic therapy, but without the perceptual distortions, the need for clinical oversight, or the risk of a bad trip. Microdosing has become increasingly popular. In one online microdosing forum that was began in 2013, the number of subscribers rose to 40,000 in 2018 and 219,000 in October 2022. LSD and psilocybin continue to be listed as Schedule 1 controlled substances, meaning legally they have no accepted therapeutic value. Nevertheless, possession of psilocybin has been decriminalized in many cities. U.S. cities is on the ballot of many states to be legalized in clinical therapy settings. Oregon and Colorado have already done so.
It's funny how it's a Schedule 1 controlled substance, but
yeah, it's like cannabis.
A government agency says it's a brilliant medical breakthrough.
Well, yeah. Well, it's time for them to change that, obviously.
I would think so. The subject of my case history began microdosing 3 times weekly at doses 1/5 of a typical hallucinogenic journey. Within 2 days, he was no longer suicidal, and within 2 weeks, he felt well. He continues to microdose and feels well 3 years later. No wonder they call psilocybin magic mushrooms. It is a potent stimulator of serotonin and may also have some influence on dopamine. But what may be more crucial is its anti-inflammatory action. It significantly inhibits pro-inflammatory chitokines, such as tumor necrosis factor alpha. Well, lots of big words this guy uses.
Yeah, sure does.
Concentrations in human microencephalid cells.
Yeah.
It affects your brain, basically.
Yeah, it turns out that most mental health disorders, are caused by neuroinflammation. That's right. Most patients with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and even psychosis have inflammation in the brains driving their mood disorders. Neuroinflammation in these patients may be caused by undiagnosed tick-borne infections, but there are multiple other drivers of inflammation. Autoimmune diseases such as lupus, Sjogren's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and even well-documented cases of neuropsychotic illnesses. Stress by itself can result in inflammatory conditions. People with childhood histories of adverse events such as physical or sexual abuse have an increased risk of autoimmune problems. I've got one.
Oh, yeah. So, do you microdose?
No, but something I should look into.
You have other ways to control it, obviously.
You cracked.
Patients with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, don't have just hypervigilance and anxiety disorders. They develop the same nervous, immune, and endocrine system dysregulation as patients with persistent tick-borne infections and neuropsychiatric disease. Meanwhile, genetics plays a significant role in the development of autoimmune conditions. Add this to genetic transmission that alters gene expression without changing the underlying DNA expression and allows for trauma to be handed down from one generation to the next. Just ask children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah,
Wow.
microdosing psilocybin holds the potential to help patients suffering from these mental health issues. Numerous studies suggest that microdosing is effective in treatment of anxiety and depression. Unfortunately, these studies are controlled or not controlled and are reliant on subject reporting. It is impossible to separate benefits from placebo, they say. We clearly need better research on microdosing. Glenn, I'm just watching the time there. This story, it's almost done. Okay, keep going. I'm just looking at the one bar and I thought, gee, we're only halfway through it. But keep going.
Presently, Johns Hopkins University is recruiting for a study with patients with PTLDS, post-traumatic Lyme disease syndrome, are treated with full hallucinogenic doses of psilocybin under the supervision of a therapist guide. These journeys last 4 or more hours in controlled settings. I hope this research finds positive benefits of treatment. Full dose psilocybin treatment demands excessive resources that will never be available to most patients with Lyme. Those of us with chronic Lyme know that PTLDS is actually persistent infection with Borrelia Burgdorferi, complicated by the existence of co-infections, resulting in systemic inflammation. It is an autoimmune illness. In the review of psychological effect of psychedelics, the author, Caitlin Thompson and Attila Sasbo, proposed that psychedelics hold the potential to attenuate or even resolve autoimmunity. Wow.
Yeah, it says the bottom line is that microdose psilocybin may be important adjacent to the treatment of mental illness. It is time that we find the resources to perform properly controlled double-blind investigations into the impact of microdosed psilocybin on patients with neuropsychiatric Lyme disease, as well as those suffering from the increasing numbers suffering from mental health disorders. So yeah, I didn't know that about the lots of information there on the how it can help with the people dealing with the Lyme disease.
I got a lot out of that article. I wish he would have used more smaller words. I'm not a scientist or a doctor.
Yeah, and those are words that we're gonna trip over. There's no doubt about that. That's gonna happen. We all of us have that issue.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next story. More than 1,000 arrested and 130 million pounds of cannabis seized in largest ever police crackdown. I'm going to say that was pounds is in dollars.
Pounds, yeah, dollars.
Yeah.
A fresh police crackdown on cannabis farms has seen more than 1,000 arrests and plants worth 130 million seized across Britain.
Tell me.
Pardon?
Just saying, right, Glenn? How much can that plant be worth in those pictures? In that picture, how much can that plant be worth? How can it be worth that much money?
It's not. It's not at all.
No, okay, so yeah,
they're assuming these plants are 5 or 6 months on.
Oh, they're already harvested. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They full harvest.
Yeah,
100% crack.
Operation Millie took place across June and involved every police force in England, Scotland, and Wales. What a waste of money and time. The largest of its kind to date, more than 11,000 officers were involved. 650,000 in cash was seized along with millions of pounds worth of drugs. I wonder, how much does the salary of 11,000 officers cost? Way more than they seized here, I can guarantee it. A total of 200,000 cannabis plants were found alongside 15 to 20 guns and over 40 other weapons, which I'm assuming are knives or something.
Something else. There's the plants. Oh, there's no room for them to live. They're crammed like being crammed in a cage.
Yeah, and they're all fairly small plants.
Yeah. Police warn the large-scale industrial units and empty houses used by criminals to grow cannabis could become a risk of fire and involved in the theft of electricity and cause fumes and water damage. Well, I'm not, I know there's been some disputes over that. The motivation behind the month-long crackdown wasn't just to stop the cannabis farms, but to disrupt criminal gangs using the operations as cash cows to fund their offenses. These include money laundering, Class A drug smuggling, and violence activities which the National Police Chiefs Council believes blights communities.
We had these same arguments here in Canada.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We kind of solved most of that problem. We legalized it. Seems to work pretty good. Do you want to go on with this article?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, we know that organized networks involved in cannabis production are also directly linked to an array of other serious criminality such as Class A drug importation, modern slavery, and wider violence and exploitation. Steve Japp, the National Police Chiefs Council, lead for serious and organized crime, he said. This operation not only successfully disrupted a significant amount of criminal activity, but the intelligence gathered will help inform future law enforcement across the country.
And then we'll finish up with this last line. Cannabis-related crime is often thought to be low level. However, there are clear patterns around the exploitation and violence organized crime groups are using to protect their enterprises. It's just growing cannabis and snowmobiling can be the same thing. You can have the good people and you can have bad people in both of them.
And it's everywhere. If you legalize it, you can kind of regulate it a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. Just so you know, Glenn, let's jump over to the last story.
Okay.
All right. And I'm just looking at the time there. All right. And this one comes to us from MJ Biz Daily. Germany publishes first draft law for recreational cannabis.
The German government published the draft law for the first pillar of its cannabis legalization progress that will govern private and communal cannabis cultivation for recreational purposes. The law lays a legal foundation for private cultivation and not-for-profit cultivation associations, whose members will be allowed to grow cannabis collectively and share a limited amount within the group for their own consumption. That's a novel way.
Well, I can tell you, Ross Middleton, CTCP. He was the owner of BMA Hydroponics, former sponsor here, until they retired. It's exactly the proposal that he put towards Health Canada was where you could do a community garden where you could get together and patients could grow together, and there would be a supply there.
And they can share costs and they can share workload.
Exactly.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, exactly. He proposed that with Health Canada, and where do you think it got?
Nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have it. Yeah. The bill is expected to reach the federal cabinet for approval in mid-August. After that, the draft law will be scrutinized in both the German the Germany's parliament and the Bundesrat sometime this autumn. However, the Bundestag is responsible for the final decision on the law, and approval in the lower house, I'm going to call it, is not required. I don't know. I can't say that.
They kept saying this. Bundesrat. I'm sorry. I can't speak German. No disrespect. Germany expects the law to enter into force before the end of the year. Like Canada, Germany says one of the main goals of ending cannabis prohibition is improving public health, not any economic or financial reasons. Details of the draft law include
limiting home cultivation to 3 cannabis plants per adult. So you could grow 6 plants at home, which is more than we can grow.
Yeah, I guess so.
If like you and Cindy, you, Cindy, Zach, whoever might be an adult that's living in your house, that's now all of a sudden 9 plants, right?
Yeah.
Limiting legal cannabis possession to 25 grams per adult.
Wow.
Hope that's away from home. Cultivation association members will be limited to 25 grams of cannabis per day or 50 grams per month. Ouch.
Wow. That's
50 grams per month. Yeah. No, that's only like 2 grams per day, not even.
Yeah, that's not
over the month. People up to the age of 21 are limited to a maximum of 30 grams per month with a limited THC content of 10%. Implementing a general advertising and sponsorship ban for cannabis and growers associations.
A second law will be introduced in relation to the regional pilot projects, or what Germany calls the second pillar of legalization. Germany said the second draft law is expected to be coordinated with the European Commission and European Union member states. I guess they have to follow the rules.
Yeah, like I just wonder, how do they must, like, where are they going to distribute that in order to be able to control the amount of grammage that every citizen is intake, that is,
and even
they would have to give up their name and everything when they, like, would you, like your loyalty card thing, would that information go to the government every time you bought something in order to be able to control what your grammage is?
That seems like a real invasion of privacy to me. That's a hard thing to regulate unless they're stopping and asking you how much do you have on you. It's kind of weird to me. It's like asking for your papers.
Yeah. Now,
and I think Germany would be against something like that.
Yeah. Be interesting. They must have a way to do it. Like I know when you think of the pharmacy end of things. If it's all, a patient could go here and there and there. It depends on, they go shop around.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
The 25 grams, I don't understand, because everything works by a 1 ounce. So you have to go to the store and say, I want an ounce, but take 3 grams out of it.
I want 25 grams. You don't want it.
That's weird.
Well, it's like our ounces here in Canada. We're 30 grams. Recreational, whereas we're 28 in that's what it is. 28 grams make an ounce, right?
Yeah.
And they we count it as 30. It's probably because of the math is easier.
It just makes it easier. Everybody can have it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Glenn. Well, what do you say, buddy? Time to us to say goodbye.
We're done.
That's a Pace News Report for July the 10th. Happy 7/10, everybody. And from the Legacy420.com news desk and for our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Legacy420.com and Limestone Hydroponics.ca. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
net.